6 or 7 day Grand Canyon trip to me is the perfect trip. It's interesting, every year you have a couple people come up on our trips and say, we came here 30 years ago and we looked down from the rim and we saw these boats and we knew that we had to do it. We had to get here somehow. Seeing it from the rim is a really neat experience, but going through the canyon on the river on a boat there's no other way to see that canyon. To spend the time intimately, to see the places that you see that you just can't get to from the rim. The way you see people change down there is incredible. Everyone shows up on that very first day. They get off the planes or they come in their own car. You meet and greet, and you find people from all over the world, and they're all there looking for this exciting time that they're a little apprehensive. They don't know exactly what's going to happen down there. And you get to go down there and show them this wonderful canyon, and you watch them just transform. They get away from the hustle and bustle of life. Every one of them fall in love with the canyon. It's got that special calling to it that it brings you in and it absorbs you. You can't literally see everything in a lifetime in that canyon, but 6 or 7 days in that canyon on our particular boats allow you to see a good chunk of that canyon. A typical day for us down in the canyon is, we get up when it gets light, we go to bed when it gets dark. And so we've got coffee and hot water for tea and cocoa on first thing in the morning, first light. We start getting up, get a good breakfast going. There's plenty of time for eating breakfast and packing up our gear, getting our camp supplies put away. We get that boat loaded as soon as we can so we can hit that water running for the day and see as much as we can. We're going to have side hikes. There's times where there's just nice calm stretches of the canyon as far as the water goes, to just observe the canyon walls and see the geology. The geology in Grand Canyon is spectacular. It is a beautiful cross-section of the Earth's history, and that's really what you're looking at, is the history of the Earth as it was being built. Lots of limestones, there's a few layers of sandstones, and then you get into the different gorges, you get into this metamorphic rock that is half the age of the Earth, and just beautifully polished black stone. The Vishnu schist is absolutely gorgeous with this granite inlay coming all around that has a lot of pink hue to it. Just gorgeous geology. The canyon is so great in the way that it builds as far as the rapids go. By the time we get into some of the bigger stuff in the gorge, we have a pretty good feel for who's capable of doing what on the trip. It doesn't take us long to do a group assessment and know who we need to put where. That's one of the things I think we're always thinking about as we get close to that rapid, of make sure everyone's in the right spot, where it's going to be best for them, where it's going to be best for the group, and then making sure as the boatmen we're lining up and putting ourselves where we need to be to have the best run through that rapid. The afternoons are always fun because we try to find some spots to beat the heat, play at a pool, nice swimming hole, another side hike, more whitewater, and then right at the end of that day start looking for a nice place to call home for the evening. We pull into camp, offload all the gear on that boat, get camp set up, and it's amazing. You look at the gear that's on that boat, and when that team comes together, we're all working as a team, you can get that boat unloaded in about 5 to 7 minutes. Get kitchen set up, start with some more activities on the beach, start hors d'oeuvres and dinner and bedtime stories, and guitar around the fire. I mean, it's a full day. For me, I think the diversity of Grand Canyon itself really gives us a lot of room to, decide what we want to do in a typical day. Nankoweap granaries are, the whole area is just a spectacular spot. It's up in the Marble Canyon section of Grand Canyon. It's a nice spot to get out and stretch your legs. It's a pretty good hike up about 700 vertical feet up to these beautiful granaries that overlook the river corridor. It's one of the most spectacular views on the river. You look downstream more than a mile, and it's just a beautiful spot. You can actually see the winding of the river and really the outlay of the canyon. Adeles Chasm is such a special site. There's almost nothing like it. If you didn't stop and do the hike, you'd never know that it was there. And you stop and everyone is looking at these boulders like, what are we stopping here for? And you tell everyone, we're going to do a little hike up to a waterfall, and you get everybody up there, and as you come around the corner to where you actually see the waterfall at Adeles Chasm, you see people's jaws just drop. I mean, they were not expecting, what we're now seeing. And beautiful cascading falls, beautiful vegetation, ferns and things hanging off the rock, little toads swimming through the water. Just a beautiful, beautiful spot. You can't help to think about John Wisipala on every trip you do through that canyon. And every trip I've ever run through that canyon, you can't help to wonder what it would have been like on his first expedition. Not knowing what's around that next corner, not knowing what's coming up. You know, there was Indian legends of these waterfalls that the river just cascades over 100 feet to your death. And I mean, they didn't know what was down around that next corner. And with the knowledge that we have now of that canyon, and it's still an expedition, mind you, but to think about being on that original first expedition would have been something. To be with that crew and in their boats, I mean, what a group of guys. I think almost everyone that comes down through that canyon probably has that sense of being an original explorer in that canyon. And I think one of the reasons why is how pristine that canyon is. You could stand on a rock plateau somewhere and not honestly know if anyone's ever stood there before, because it's so pristine and well kept down there. It's such a natural, raw environment. You can come down that canyon every year for the rest of your life and you're not going to see it all. There's a lot of history in that canyon. You're truly out there. It's a place for me to get away and experience life as it once was. To get away from the hustle and bustle. We're unplugged down there. There's no cell phones. There's none of that stuff. And you unplug and you go on a true expedition that is unlike anything else. One of the favorite parts for me being a guide is just doing what I love. It's being able to take people through the bottom of Grand Canyon and show them one of the 7 natural wonders of the world. It's a spectacular way to see Grand Canyon National Park. I'm Greg Newton and I'm a Western River Guide.